Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about some basics of Para3d and what actually para nodes are and what's the relation between the para nodes and 3D Max objects and how Para3d stores the information of 3D Max objects within those para nodes. When I'm talking about para nodes is basically I'm talking about helper objects that store under this category Torabi tools, which depends on what version of parametric array you have. You got different number of these helper objects here. The first one is the P array, which stands for parametric array, and there are paramesh and parashape in Para3d version 3. And if you already have a higher version of Para3d, you might have more of these, and in lower version you might have only P array. Just to let you know, I'm using Para3d 3 and Max 2012. Well, these are helper objects, and when you create a new Para3d node, 3D Max instantiate new instance of these helpers, and it adds it to your Max scene. So every time you save your scene, the Para3d nodes also will be saved into your scene file. So in order to create these, either you can directly do it from here, from the create tab panel, which I don't recommend to do it, or you can come over to these toolbars and press the create parametric array or parametric shape. So I'm going to just press on this button and I get the dialog box, small dialog box with two options of create mesh and create shape, which obviously there are 2 out of 3. I don't see the parametric array here, and I'm going to tell you why. And then I can press the create button, and then 3D Max creates either a shape or mesh, and then we are done with creating part. But as you can see, this allows me to create either a mesh or a parametric shape. We're going to talk about each one in the future, but I'll just close this, and then now I'm going to create a max object, just like a box here. And then when I have this in my selection, when this object is selected basically, then I go there, and then again I press create button, and then I get different dialog box, which is this time is going to create a parametric array out of this box. So far there are 2 ways of creating Para3d nodes. Either you go directly there without having anything in your selection, and then you press on the para button, you got the options of creating parametric shape or parametric mesh, or you have a single object selected and then you press and create button and you get parametric array dialog box asking for the number of items in the array and then the array type and all. And if you look at it more closely, you'll find that there are 2 options even in the parametric array creation. You can create an array or you can assign a controller. Well, the difference here is that the first option allows you to create array out of this, which means you replicate this object and then you assign those objects into one Para3d node, and then from there you can take control over the properties and all that, or you can simply choose assign controller. It doesn't replicate that, but it still allows you to use Para3d controller to control the parameters of this single object. This acts just like the normal controller assignment of 3D Studio Max, which you can go to track view and then drop the controller or the property and so on. So now let's go back to our array. I'm going to just array this. We talk about the array type and the number of the array, what the dimensions means and how the Para3d store those. And we just press on create, and then Para3d dialog pops up, and with the one para node. Obviously my scene was new, so I didn't have any other Para3d nodes. As you can see, the name of the Para3d is para box 001, which I have to change this at the beginning, but I can still change it from here. In your modify tab, you got Para3d Node selected. So that means it's max objects, a normal max object and stored within your scene somewhere, but you don't see it actually. The reason that you don't see it is that you don't delete it by mistake, because if you delete that, you lose all the relation of the controller with the objects. And in order to protect that, we have a new layer called parametric array, which is off and also freeze, so it protects the para nodes. And if you're curious about how this thing look like, I'm just gonna switch on these, and I'm gonna select that from the list. Here we go, and we're gonna zoom on that, and you can see it's a very tiny box within your scene. I'm just gonna zoom out, and it's somewhere that doesn't have anything to do with your max object, because it's a helper object, and you don't have to actually look at it. In previous version, this was exposed to users, so we just thought that, okay, let's hide it because you don't really need to see this in your max scene. So we'll just go back and freeze and hide the layer. So since we don't know where is this, and if you want to select and then go to modifier tab, you need to have an alternative way to do it. So the way you can do it is like this. From the para setting dialog, you come over the para node that which you have created. When you have selected, you press this button with the left click, and that will select your para node wherever it is in your scene, and then shows up the settings of that in your modify panel. So that's how you can access to the main para node. All right, let's see what we have done so far. We have created a parametric array with 10 objects in it. Come over my box, and then I just move these boxes, and you can see there are multiple boxes in one place. So the first thing para does, or better say parametric array does, is that it replicates the objects according to the number you enter initially. Well, when I was creating this array, I entered 10 as a number of objects. So now I've got 11 objects. The reason I have 11 because I had an option to either keep my original object or not. When you check that, I'm going to show you again the parametric array create dialog box, so you see what I'm talking about. Here you have the keep original object. If you check this option, this is not going to be part of the array, and it's going to stand alone, and we're just using a copy of these in our array. So that's why you got 11 objects here. This is the original one. But if you don't check it, you get this as your first object, and then there would be 9 others. So including this, it's going to be 10 objects. Well, there are other approach to creating para nodes rather than clicking here. You can also, let's say, if my para dialogs is not open, you can come over the setting, or it's called select corresponding para object. This is related to the older version, but we just kept the name. So far it's I would call it the setting dialog box. So you just click on this, and you got the Para3d settings. From here, when nothing is selected, you can right click, and from the right click menu you can go to the first sub menu, and there are things that you can create. You can create a parametric array, you can create parametric shape, and so on. Let's try parametric array again, and it creates a Para3d node. But as you can see, this node doesn't have anything to show, because it has to be associated with an object in max, so it can brings up the property of that object. To see how that works, we go here and then again we select our parametric array node from the scene, and from here you can actually select the object which is going to be arrayed. We're just going to create a sphere this time, and then we go there, we select the array from the modify tab. You got these option that you can select the object now, come over the object, and then here we go, we have the properties of sphere populated in our list, and this is the new array of a sphere. And if you want to know how many spheres you have, you got 10, and then I can select, you got 10 objects. So there is no option to keep the original. This is the difference. So there, when you create it from the create button, you have the option to keep the original object, but here it's just going to create the array including your first object. Okay, we are not done yet with creating paranodes. I'm going to close this session now, and then in the next session we're going to talk about other methods of creating paranodes, and then we're going to talk about how the paranode stores information of max objects. So see you next time.